You can't tell me this shit can't get done without people beating on each other, killing each other, doing each other like dogs. When I walk through the valley of darkness, I see no darkness, no sin, no young inside that there's evil people. I walk with God, my nigga.
All right, great news today. I'm excited. Feels good to be on the right side of history. It's called the Donald Trump effect. Changing in the right direction. I'm happy, content. Chrystia Freeland, Finance Minister, Deputy Finance Minister of Canada, has resigned. She can't take it anymore. She can't take it anymore. Let's play the tape. But let me make sure my audio is good. Please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. All right, let's go play the tape. So this is how my day was starting off. This is why I got back here. I just got to the gym, put 110% at workout. Then I said, I got to get back here and get on the internet and actually talk about this, because this is breaking news in Canada, like breaking news. We got to get to the question period, so I got to do some edits. But this is how it started, right? Pierre came on CP24 and all the news networks. They're still talking about it now. They're saying that Justin Trudeau might resign after his Deputy Finance Minister, Chrystia Freeland, resigns. So anyway, let's play the tape. This is how it starts.
For being here today. What we are seeing is the government of Canada itself is spiraling out of control.
Yup.
Right before our eyes and at the very worst time.
Been saying
today,
that.
Mere hours before Trudeau's finance minister.
You know, it's funny, right? Like, I've been saying this, and they say, oh, you don't know Dude, you're on the wrong side of history. So, again, credibility is 1,000. I'm thankful that I was on the right side of history, and I don't need to lie. Let's go.
Minister was to deliver a fall economic update that was expected to smash through her already massive deficit targets. She announced she no longer has confidence in the Prime Minister. Canadians were already anxious about the reckless $40 billion deficit the government had announced last spring, but today, in mere hours, they were expected to learn that it was much higher than that, threatening our social programs and our fiscal stability right in the middle of a potential trade war. The Prime Minister, with the help and instigation of carbon tax Carney, pushed Ms. Freeland to bring on massive, unsustainable, irresponsible spending increases that blew through her self-imposed guardrail. He thought that he would simply push her through that guardrail and off the cliff so that she, and not he and Mr. Carney, would take the blame for the crisis that he and they caused. To continue the chaos, think of this. The moment the finance minister resigned, the government's published order of precedent meant that François-Philippe Champagne instantaneously became the finance minister. But now he tells us he doesn't have the job and doesn't want the job. So it goes to the next minister who's on the published order of precedent, and that is Randy Boissonnault, more commonly known as the two Randys, the gentleman who had to resign because he falsely claimed he was Indigenous, falsely claimed that there were more than one Randy when it was all him and all in his head. And he is now technically our finance minister as we speak. We don't know for sure, though, if he'll still be finance minister in 3.5 hours when the scheduled fall economic update is expected to land. That update, by the way, is currently covered by a black blanket underneath a table. No one is allowed to look at it, even though journalists and parliamentarians showed up to read it in briefing rooms to this day, earlier today. So here we are. Everything is spiraling out of control. Out of control spending and bureaucracy has doubled housing costs, with 1,400 homeless encampments have taken over Ontario alone. Out of control immigration has led to refugee camps opening in suburban Canada. And then we have 500,000 people in the country illegally, according to government estimates. Out of control crime overtakes our once tranquil streets, with gun crime having doubled. Out of control drugs and disorder add to the chaos, with 47,000 of our people dead of overdoses since Trudeau legalized drug laws, stopped enforcing them, and allowed limitless sums of fentanyl ingredients into our country. Out of control inflation has followed out of control money printing, which has sent out of control demand to our food banks, which are running out of food altogether. Out of control spending has doubled our national debt, boosted interest rates, and threatened our social.
You know, man, I got to be honest, man. Like when I go out there, it's not a good feeling, man, up here in Canada. So just so you know, feels like a trap at this point.
Social programs. And it's not just Freeland who thinks this Prime Minister is out of control. Now, Housing Minister Sean Fraser has resigned in the middle of a housing crisis. The Minister is resigning, the Finance Minister is resigning in the middle of an economic crisis, and a fifth of his Liberal caucus has lost confidence in him. Justin Trudeau has lost control, and yet he clings to power. We cannot accept this kind of chaos, division, weakness, while we're staring down the barrel of a 25% tariff from our biggest trading partner and closest ally, which, by the way, is headed by a newly elected president with a strong and fresh mandate, a man who can spot weakness from a mile away. Ms. Freeland has been Mr. Trudeau's most trusted minister now for a decade, for 9 years. She knows him better than anyone, and she knows that he's out of control. She said this: our country faces a grave challenge. The incoming administration in the United States is pursuing a policy of aggressive economic nationalism, including the threat of a 25% tariff. We need to take that threat extremely seriously. That means we have to keep our fiscal firepower dry today, so we have the reserves we may need for a coming tariff war. That means eschewing costly political gimmicks, which we can ill afford, and which makes Canadians doubt that we recognize the gravity of the moment. I know Canadians would recognize and respect such an approach. They know we are working for them. They know when we are working for them, and they know when we are working for ourselves. Inevitably, our time in government will come
to an end. Let's stop it there. Again, you have to understand what happened. Justin Trudeau, and I should be on camera doing this, but I just got back out of the gym, so I got to do some things. But Justin Trudeau wanted Kamala Harris to win the election so they can keep going with their liberal economic order. But the American people spoken. They said, no, we're going to vote Donald Trump Vance into office. So with that being said, that's why Trudeau flew down into Mar-a-Lago. Then when he came back to Canada, he said, oh, you know what? Let me just play the tape. I'm just going to show you, right? Because we got to go through all that. Hold on a second. Justin Trudeau came back and said, I'm a feminist. He's like, oh, yeah, Kamala Harris. Hold on. Right? Because he wanted Kamala Harris to win, not Donald Trump, but the American people spoken, as they have their right. Hold on a second. Let me find what he said here, that I'm a feminist. Hold on a second. I got to find it. Where is it? I think I'm going to have to go through Sky News here. Let's go through it here. Yeah, so they wanted Kamala to win. Oh, here it is right here. I got it here through Sky News. Let's watch this here. Okay, hold on. Okay. So they wanted Kamala to win the election, not Donald Trump. But the American people spoken, and Kamala won. Or sorry, Donald Trump won. I apologize. So this is why. So when he comes back to Canada now, he comes out there and he says, well, they could have elected the first woman president. and all this kind of stuff.
About this, the governor of America's 51st state has proudly declared he is a feminist, and he's angry, as most feminists are. He's angry that the US chose not to elect a female president.
Right? He's upset that Kamala didn't get in, but Donald Trump got in. So again, that's why I said the Trump effect. This is why Donald Trump is literally changing the political landscape, which is great. But anyway.
Have a listen.
Listen to him. Listen.
No, it shouldn't be that way. It wasn't supposed to be that way. We were supposed to be on a steady, if difficult.
Right? It wasn't, right? Like, that's a dictator, bro. That's like saying, well, it wasn't supposed to be that way, that the American people decided to exercise their democratically elected right as citizens to go and vote for Donald Trump, not Kamala. And so he's like, oh, it's not supposed to be that way because he wanted Kamala to win. So now that Donald Trump won, he knows that he's on his way out.
That way. It wasn't supposed to be that way.
Right? Like,
we were supposed to.
What do you mean it's not supposed to be that way? The American people can consciously choose to pick who they want, and whoever like Donald Trump won the popular vote. Anyway.
Be on a steady, if difficult sometimes,
dictator.
March towards progress.
Not progress.
And yet, just a few weeks ago, the United States voted for a second time to not elect its first woman president.
Right? Because it's all about gender and race. They're Marxists. That's what they are.
Everywhere, women's rights and women's progress is under attack, overtly and subtly.
More lies.
And I want you to know that I am, and always will be, a proud feminist. You will always have an ally in me and in my government.
Right? And everybody around the world is clowning on this guy. Like, yo, like what? Women, like, real women clown on him. So it's like, okay, man, you lost. Okay, so let's go back to Pierre. This is why I told you I'm voting conservative.
Will come to an end.
But let's continue.
She said, and I quote, and it is coming to an end because we simply cannot go on like this. And it is up to Jagmeet Singh now to make that realization. Mr. Trudeau is being held in office by one man, Jagmeet Singh.
One person.
A fifth of Liberal MPs have written a letter for him to resign. His deputy prime minister has walked out on him. His housing minister has quit.
Isn't that crazy?
On top of numerous other female ministers who stormed out after his appalling mistreatment and abuse and dishonesty.
Right? I thought Trudeau just said he was a feminist. But all these women are walking out of his cabinet. Make it make sense? More lies? Come on, man.
Dishonesty towards
Come on,
them.
man. This is crazy.
80% of Canadians have lost confidence in this Prime Minister. So why is Jagmeet Singh making the entire country wait for him to get his pension? That is the question today. To patriotic Liberals across the country, my message is this. You supported this government in good faith because you thought it was the right thing for the country. And you are good and decent patriotic people who've been let down by a Prime Minister and his top advisor, Mr. Carney, who have betrayed Ms. Freeland and you. Carney and Trudeau, the backroom boys, have taken the Liberal Party away from anything it used to stand for. What I'm calling for is let's bring home the common sense consensus of Liberals who believed in liberty, Conservatives who believed in conserving it, fiscal responsibility, compassion for our neighbours. These are the shared common values that will bind up our nation's wounds and bring us back together. Now is the time for a carbon tax election to turn the decision away from me or Mr. Trudeau or Mr. Singh or Mr. Carney and put it in the hands of the people. I know that they will make the right decision. Let's bring it home.
We the people.
Can you clarify? You do not.
Okay, so now Pierre is doing some question period. So let me go and share this and let's catch up on that. All right, here we go here. We need live.
Interference. For Christmas, will their leader get his security clearance?
Oh, look at that. Cole Harbor Nova Scotia. That's what my mom and dad are.
Childcare. What more could there be?
Cool.
School food and pharmacare. Thanks to the NDP. They tore up our deal. They started to go vote. But guess what happened on the next confidence vote? Supply management and seniors. The Bloc has lots to say. I don't really understand, Mr. Speaker. Je ne parle pas français. To calm caucus rebels, we cut the GST. A small gift from the Liberals and me. Groceries are high. There's trouble with the mail. But we still have a chance to win Cloverdale? Now, Mr. Speaker, it's not a contest, so I don't mean to brag, but it's only our leader whose name is on a flag. One final thought, though, Mr. Speaker. One final thought, though. Canada ain't broke, though I will admit we may be a bit woke. Mr. Speaker, colleagues, Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays, too. May we all get a Christmas card from a Randy or two.
Oral questions. Questions orales. L'honorable.
The Honourable Leader of the Official Opposition.
Here we
Mr.
go.
Speaker, the Prime Minister has lost control, but he is clinging to power. We knew that he had lost control of the voters, of immigration, of spending, of inflation, of the cost of housing, but now he has lost control of his cabinet. The Vice Prime Minister, the Deputy Prime Minister, the Minister of Finance has stepped down, and she stepped down hours before presenting Canada's fall economic statement with an enormous deficit. When will we have an election?
L'honorable leader du gouvernement à l'Assemblée.
So, Canada's election is coming. I'm prepared. What have I been doing? Working out, eating healthy, maintaining employment, and staying away from negative-minded people that are not even going to build anything, and just not looking at a screen 24/7, 7 days a week, but not logging off completely, but understanding simple, complex systems. Canada's election is coming. I think we're going into the right trajectory in my country, in Canada. I think America's on its right path. You got a Donald Trump victory rather than a Kamala Harris. That would have been just crazy. But Justin Trudeau is disappointed. And now Justin Trudeau's deputy finance minister is stepping down. Yeah, I think so. Canada's on its way for its change, and I've been waiting for years now. Let's go.
Thank you, Mr.
Oh, no,
Speaker.
not her again.
Our government is looking forward to presenting the economic statement this afternoon, and I would like to take this opportunity to thank the member for University Rosedale for everything that she has done for this country and everything that she will continue to do for this country. Her accomplishments make quite a long list, and her place in history is assured, and we are very proud.
Okay, so, ma'am, you're a liar, and I'm going to show you why you're a liar. And you're just talking out of your ass. You're just a liar, and I don't respect you. No, I don't. Because you're a liar, and I don't like people that lie to me, and I never will. I never will. Guys, I got to put this up, and I've been meaning to do this, and this is a great stream. Chrystia Freeland's great-grandfather was a Nazi. And if you don't know that, hold on, let me pull this up. I'm going to read this article. This is a new one here. All right, so let's share this screen here. I'm putting this on my channel because nobody really wants to talk about this, do they? Why is that? I wonder why. Let's exit that. Counterspin, new book on Freeland's grandfather reveals his Nazi past and role supporting the Holocaust. Her grandfather supported the Holocaust. I never supported the Holocaust. Here it is right here. Look, take a look. All right. In March 2017, a global and male journalist shook up the humdrum of the Ottawa political scene by asking Chrystia Freeland about her grandfather, Mikolai Kamaki, I think, or Kamak. Kamak had come to Canada with his family after the Second World War and had been portrayed as a typical hardworking immigrant. But his past hides something a little more sinister. He had been an editor and propagandist for the Nazis. Kamak was in charge of, I think it's Chrystia, an anti-Semitic newspaper that promoted the Waffen SS and denounced Jews. That's her grandfather. So when she resigns, no, man, no, absolutely not. It's not feasible. Sorry, but not sorry. Freeland responded to the Global Mail report and claims about her grandfather were part of a disinformation plot by the Russians, and an official in Freeland's office went even further, telling the Globe the claim Kamak was a Nazi collaborator was a fabrication. Freeland supporters in Canada and the Canadian news media rushed to defend Kamak. Yeah, so it's a Nazi playbook. That's what I believe. So I just want to put that up there. Yeah, I think it's a Nazi playbook. Her grandfather and Trudeau's government. So what else we got here? Yeah, so anyway, that's it. Okay, so let's go back to question period. So anyway, people don't really want to understand that and grasp that. Oh, well, it's on my channel. Anyway.
Of everything that she has done for this government.
L'honorable chef de l'opposition.
The Prime yet he clings to power. He's lost control of immigration, lost control of the borders, lost control of spending, deficits, inflation, housing costs. In fact, his former, apparently, finance minister was trying to get spending under control by capping the deficit at an already crazy $40 billion. But he took carbon tax Carney's advice and pushed her beyond that guardrail and was trying to throw her off the cliff. She's now resigned minutes before presenting her fall economic update. This cannot go on. When will we have a carbon tax elected?
That's what we want to know.
Honourable Leader of the Government in the House of Commons.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, our government looks forward to presenting the fall economic statement later this afternoon. But I would also like to take this opportunity to extend my gratitude for all that the member from University Rosedale has accomplished for this country and will continue to do for this country. She has played an integral role in this government. First of all, standing up for Canada and defending NAFTA, bringing forward universal childcare, and the incredible work that she has done in defending Ukraine. We are very grateful for all that she's contributed to this government and to Canada. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
For the Finance Minister. Who are you?
The Honourable Leader of the Government in the House of Commons.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, at a time when Canadians are struggling, we are happy to bring forward measures that are going to assist them. Things like the GST tax cut that took place starting this
Yeah, that's not going to move
until
the needle.
February 15th. While the Conservative leader and the members of his caucus stay focused on us, we're going to stay focused on helping
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, it was a serious question. Who is the finance minister? After the finance minister's resignation this morning, automatically the industry minister became Minister of Finance. And congratulations. But he immediately quit. After him, in the line of precedence, it was the two Randys. Well, they don't want it. So now we don't have a finance minister just a couple of minutes before the fall economic statement will be presented. So where's the minister?
The Honourable Leader of the Government,
The Honourable Leader of the Government in the House of Commons. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. as I said, our government is looking forward to presenting the fall economic statement later this afternoon. There are important measures in that update, measures that are important for Canadians. It's time for the leader of the Conservatives to recognize that while he's focused on us, we are focused on Canadians.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, just to underline the chaos we're faced with here, the Finance Minister
It is
resigned
chaos.
the day she was to present the fall budget, which was going to contain a massive deficit overrun.
Yep.
The job then went automatically to the Industry Minister, who immediately resigned.
This is just
Like on the spot, which then went down the line, and the next person in order was the famous two Randys. And they're not available to do the job either. We're now less than 2 hours away from the fall economic update. Why won't the Prime Minister have the courage to come in here, present it himself,
That's right.
and put it for a confidence vote
That's
tonight?
right. Show us the courage. Stop being weak. Weak men create hard times, man. You're so weak, man. It's crazy.
I would like to remind all members, as I did during statements today, for members to be careful not to refer to other sitting members by their names, but to use their titles or to use their writing names. The Honourable Leader of the Government in the House of Commons.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, Mr. Speaker, while the Leader of the Opposition continues to play politics in this place, we look forward to presenting the fall economic statement later this afternoon that will have a series of important measures for Canadians, things that are going to help them with the affordability challenges that are going to put Canada, Canadian jobs, and the Canadian economy first. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I would like to ask the honourable member from St. Albert, Edmonton, to please not take the floor when he is not recognized by the Speaker.
The Honourable Member for La Prairie. We already knew that between 20 and 40 Liberal MPs no longer had confidence in the Prime Minister. We also knew that 8 ministers would be jumping ship. Today, the Minister of Finance decided to step down instead of presenting the fall economic statement. She wrote, black and white, that she disagrees with the Prime Minister on the best path forward for Canada. So she has also taken away her confidence in the Prime Minister. We are watching this government, this Liberal government, fall apart, and it's pretty ugly to see. Will the Prime Minister call an election? The Honourable Government House Leader. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I would like to thank my colleague for his question. As I mentioned, as a government, we are looking forward to presenting the fall economic statement later this afternoon. There are important measures in there for Canadians when it comes to affordability in particular, and we are exclusively focused on Canadians. And we will continue to protect Canadian economy and Canadian jobs. The Honourable Member for La Prairie. The Deputy Prime Minister has quit because of the Liberals' electoral handouts. She said that Canadians know when we're working for them and when we're focused on ourselves. Mr. Speaker, people can see through their political games. Quebecers don't want these political handouts. Businesses don't want them. Even the Finance Minister doesn't want them. The only person who wants these is the NDP leader and the Prime Minister of Canada. Will they finally stop sabotaging Canada's economy for, so they can buy votes? The Honourable Leader of the Government in the House of Commons. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And once again, I would like to thank my colleague for his question. Cutting the GST on essentials for Canadians is something that's important for many Canadians. And I've heard from many people in my riding who have said that this is something that is important for them. Restaurants, small and medium-sized businesses say that this is something that's important for them, and we are proud of having put that motion forward.
The Honourable Member from Burnaby South.
People can't afford their groceries. People can't find a home to call their own. And the conservatives are
Order.
This is my government, like Canadian government. Isn't that crazy? And they're saying, hold on, let me stop it. Bro, from what I understand, they're saying that governments are collapsing, like under the weight of people being pissed off and like upset and all this kind of stuff. They're saying governments are collapsing, and I'm going to show you right here. Hold on a second. This is by Mary. I think it's Mary Gurry. I think it is. This is by the New York Post. Take a look at this. And yeah, there was another mass shooting going on. It was a guy. He went into a he was a juvenile that went into a Christian school and killed people. Like, this is the kind of stuff that I cover. There's no names that are being released, but it says a new age of politics is upon the world as toppled leaders lose their grip on power. It said, did anything happen lately? Let's see. November 5th, Donald Trump, having risen like a zombie from the political grave and barely survived, being well and truly assassinated, decisively defeated Kamala Harris in the United States presidential election. This has more than a loss for the Democrats. It was the overthrow of our democracy, in their words, a regime that felt so virtuous and scientific that it expected to last forever. 2 days later, the German government collapsed, supposedly over disagreements about the budget, but really because the principals couldn't stand each other. The German economy is flatlining, and other than quarreling, the political class has no clue what to do about it. Nevertheless, elections will be held early next year. Look, people take the street. Berlin, Germany. On December 3rd, the president of South Korea, locked in a political struggle with the opposition majority in parliament, tried to gain the upper hand by the clever expedient of declaring martial law. His opponents, he insisted, were really a bunch of commie stooges of Kim Jong-un. And since they were elected officials, it was best to dispense with this democracy thing. It didn't work. Within 24 hours, martial law was undeclared by the legislature, and the sitting president abruptly found he had a lot of explaining to do. Hardly democracy. 2 days later, the French government collapsed because, you probably guessed this, it failed to come up with a budget that didn't incite a car-burning riot in the streets of Paris. The French have already had their election, and an unusual twist on democracy. President Emmanuel Macron asked all the losers to form a government and kept the winners out. 4 days later, in another interesting interpretation of how democracy should work, Romania's constitutional court canceled the presidential election because a far-right populist appeared certain to win. Rumors abound about the Russian disinformation already manipulating opinion in populist favor, carried out on the most potent and pervasive of all platforms, TikTok. 2 days later, Islamist guerrillas swept into Damascus and put an end to the bloody dictatorship of Bashar al-Assad. People cheered around the world. Joe Biden climbed out of his comfy couch long enough to take credit for the whole thing and offer humanitarian relief money to the new Syrian rulers. Things are changing, man. And 2025 is going to be a hell of a year. Global conflict, old relations of power and money, only yesterday self-evident, and the legitimacy suddenly seem false and unnatural, if not absurd. Vulnerable institutions that function well under the old dispensation. Old dispensation are maladated to the new and deliver mostly decadence and failure. There we go. Ancient ideals, democracy above all have become garbled in their meaning and are in dire need of translation into the altered conditions. The cause of the transformation, epoxy complex. One thing is certain: the turbulent events I have listed, like many before and others still to come, are driven by global conflict between those who wish to cling to any cost to the old ways and those eager to move on. And that's what you're going to have to understand. Nor has this twilight struggle been more vicious than here in the United States, where the two sides are evenly matched. right? It says resigning populace. So I call it the Trump effect, coup de force or force. So anyway, I call it the Trump effect, and people better start to realize that. You don't want to realize it? Don't. Just continue doing the same thing, trying to get a different result. Okay, back to question period, because I still got to go through this.
The honourable member from Burnaby South from the top, please.
Canadians literally cannot afford the groceries they need. They can't afford to find a home to call their own. And now Trump, buddies of the conservatives, MAGA conservatives love this guy, Trump is threatening hundreds of thousands of jobs in Canada. And the Prime Minister is more focused on himself, on infighting. The Prime Minister cannot remain in that position. Will he resign?
Is Jagmeet stepping up? He might be stepping up.
The Honourable Minister for Innovation.
Mr. Speaker, this is not the time for slogan. This is not the time for partisanship. This is not a time to make jokes, Mr. Speaker. This is about rallying for Canadians. This is a time where Canadians need to know that this House and all the members are standing behind them, that we're going to invest in Canadians, that we're going to invest in this country, that we're going to invest in our workers, and that we're going to invest in our industry, Mr. Speaker, and that we're going to prepare Canada to be the best prepared to be able to deal with our U.S. friends. Mr. Speaker, this is the time where we show that we are all Canadians.
The honourable member for Burnaby South.
So I'll ask again in French. Les gens de la misère.
People are having a very hard time paying for groceries. Young people can't find affordable housing. And beyond that, we have the threat of Trump's tariffs. And that's putting hundreds of thousands of jobs in Canada in danger. And instead of dealing with issues that are important for Canadians, the Prime Minister is dealing with fighting in his own party. It's clear that the Prime Minister
Isn't that crazy?
cannot continue. Will
stop that? Isn't that friggin' crazy? Like, high inflation, high food, high housing, high crime. And instead of dealing with the issues of myself, a birthright Canadian, Justin Trudeau rather have infighting in his cabinet. So his infighting in his cabinet is not going to help us. He's not going to help me. So it's like, no, man, this is not good. So hopefully they can get this election thing going. And that would be the greatest Christmas gift, in my humble opinion. But he's right, though. Like, he's right. Even though he's trying to do this shit to keep his pension, but he's right about that. Like, you can't get, you can't, these guys clearly can't chew gum and walk at the same time. It's mind-boggling.
The honourable member for Burnaby South.
It's crazy.
So I'll ask again in French. Les gens de la misère.
People are having a very hard time paying for groceries. Young people can't find affordable housing. And beyond that, we have the threat of Trump's tariffs. And that's putting hundreds of thousands of jobs in Canada in danger. And instead of dealing with issues that are important for Canadians, the Prime Minister is dealing with fighting in his own party. It's clear that the Prime Minister cannot continue. Will he resign today, yes or no? The Honourable Minister of Innovation. Mr. Speaker, as I said, this isn't a time for jokes. This isn't a time for partisanship. It's certainly not a time for conservative slogans, Mr. Speaker. It's time, Mr. Speaker, to work together as parliamentarians to defend Canada, to invest in Canada, to defend our workers, to invest in our industry. And, Mr. Speaker, I call on all members of this House to do their civic duty to work for the good of Canada, so that we can face the incoming American administration. Mr. Speaker, today we are all Canadians. Let's work together.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, the NDP leader is absolutely right. This cannot continue. This Prime Minister cannot go on like this.
No, it
Housing
can't.
costs have doubled. Food bank use has doubled. The debt has doubled. Gun crime has doubled. And now we face troubling tariff threats from a president who can see weakness coming from a mile away. The Prime Minister must leave this job, but there's only one person who can remove him, and that's the leader of the NDP. Will he put the
Come on,
country
Jagmeet, do it.
ahead of his pension and vote for a carbon tax election now?
Hey, come on, man.
Eric. So, although the preamble to that question dealt with the administration of government, the question itself did not, and the chair has made it clear that we're not doing that. The honourable member from Thornhill.
Prime Minister has lost control. The Prime Minister's own deputy quit just hours before her economic statement, all of a sudden saying, Canadians know when we're focused on ourselves, and describing a newfound disdain for costly political gimmicks. Those are her quotes. This after her own political rival, Mark Carney, wrote the fall economic statement full of things that she didn't want to present. The old boys club isn't in charge. Canadians are. And it's time for credible leadership in the seriousness of this moment, not the fake feminism of this phony Prime Minister. It's time for Canadians to decide. So will anyone?
Man, I love when when women are that, like, you know what I'm saying? Classy, smart, well-spoken women are saying, you know what? You're just trying to virtual signal to me to make it seem like, oh, I gotta get on every page what you're saying. You're a fake feminist, because that's what you are. So yeah, I love that shit. That shit is gold. Told you I'm voting conservative anyway, so it doesn't matter to me. I gotta go and register as a conservative because I'm not ever gonna vote. I never did vote liberal anyway, but I'll never ever do it anyway.
PD quit just hours before her economic statement, all of a sudden saying, Canadians know when we're focused on ourselves, and describing a newfound disdain for costly political gimmicks. Those are her quotes. This after her own political rival, Mark Carney, wrote the fall economic statement full of things that she didn't want to present. The old boys club isn't in charge. Canadians are. And it's time for credible leadership in the seriousness of this moment, not the fake feminism of this phony Prime Minister. It's time for Canadians to decide. So will anyone or everyone over there finally agree?
The Honourable Leader of the Government in the House of Commons.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Look. She looks shell-shocked. Look at her. Look at her. Look how, man.
To presenting the fall economic statement.
She looks shell-shocked. Look at her.
A series of important measures for
He's terrible, man.
At a time,
you know what? Let me.
hold
on. So they have this GST thing, right? I gotta find the video, man. I forget what the lady's name is, but the lady was like, she was going around and like, I can't remember what it was. Let me see, GST. Maybe I might be able to find it here. She was going around in the store. It's like, you can get this, you can get this, you can get this. Hold on a second. Hold on a second. I can't remember. Where is it? I don't know what the lady's name is. What the fuck is this lady's name? What is the lady's name, man? Hold on, let me go down. I gotta find out what the lady's name is. I don't know what the lady's name is. Yeah, I can't find it. It's this lady's name. Fuck, man, what is it? She was going around and she was like, oh, look what I can't get. Hold on a second. I gotta see what. Oh, man, I can't remember what it was. I was just like, man, these guys just virtual signal. What is this here? All they do is virtual signal. Anyway, I'm just gonna let it play through. I can't find it at this moment, but I'll have to look for it.
Important that
They'll
all
come
of
to me.
us band together, united as Canadians, to make sure that we're doing everything we can to protect the Canadian economy, protect Canadian jobs, and to stand up for Canada. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Thornhill.
Mr. Speaker, they can't even stand by each other. Hours before delivering the fiscal
Right.
update, the finance minister resigned. She lost confidence in the prime minister. Last night, the failed housing minister and the worst immigration minister in the history of this country also resigned. A couple of Randys, and now they're up to 9 ministers that need to be replaced. He's lost control of the government. The party of backroom boys is over. The backbench should look up from their laptops, and the NDP leader shouldn't be the only one in this House with confidence in the prime minister. Present the statement and call a vote today.
Hear, hear.
Again, I'm just going to, for the last time, order. Order. I'm going to ask members once again to remind themselves not to refer to members by their first names. The Honourable Minister for Housing, Infrastructure and Communities.
Now, Mr. Speaker, I'm not sure who she's talking about, but I'm still here for now. I can guarantee you, Mr. Speaker, that there are two kinds of people who run for office in politics. There are people who want to do something, and there are people who want to be somebody. And I can tell you, on our side of the House, we want to do things. We want to build the houses to make sure families can afford to keep a roof over their heads. We want to make sure families can afford to keep their food on the table to feed their kids. We want to make sure people can find a job to go to that gives them a sense of pride and allows them to contribute to their communities. On the Conservative side, their guy has been writing essays about why he should be Prime Minister since he was a teenager.
The Honourable Member for Calgary Nose Hill.
On Friday, the Prime Minister told Canada's first female finance minister but she was fired, but to keep sweet and present their wildly overspent budget on Monday so that he and an unelected man, Mark Carbon Tax Carney, wouldn't have to take the blame for their broken budget. He then, unbothered, released a video of him making cinnamon buns to get the women folks vote. How can any woman in that caucus defend that man instead of calling for an election now?
Hear, hear.
The order. The Honourable Leader of the Government in the House of Commons.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I didn't realize cinnamon buns were a gendered food, but what I would say is that her question says more about how that member and Conservative members view women in this country than anything else. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Calgary Nose Hill.
Are facing violence in the streets. They can't afford groceries. They can't afford to buy presents for their kids for the holidays. They can't afford anything. Canadian women are far worse off under this fake feminist prime minister. And now he fired Canada's...
Right? What do they call him? A fake feminist prime minister. That's exactly what he is. Salute to this lady.
In the streets. They can't afford groceries.
He's right.
They can't
She's
afford
right.
to buy presents for their kids for the holidays. They can't afford anything. Canadian women are far worse off under this fake feminist prime minister. And now he fired Canada's first female finance minister because she dared question him. That sounds pretty familiar. No strong woman exists in that caucus. Why would any woman defend this man instead of calling for an election?
There you go. There you go.
The Honourable Leader of the Government.
Here's a non-strong woman. Listen.
You know, Mr. Speaker, I have a lot of respect for that member opposite, but I think she's speaking from her own experience with the Leader of the official opposition when she said that she wasn't going to support him and then spent a year in the hinterlands, Mr. Speaker. But what I will say is that when it comes to actually doing things that support women, we have done that on this side of the House. Whether it's affordable childcare that is making it possible for hundreds of thousands of women to join the workforce, making contraception exceptions free, or the Canada Child Benefit that is helping families pay the bills. And what do Conservative members of Parliament do every time? They vote against them. So actions speak louder than words, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Wellington Halton Hills.
Mr. Speaker, this Prime Minister has lost control. He's lost control of the economy. He's lost control of immigration. He's lost control of so many files. And now he's lost control of the government. It's long past time for an election. This Prime Minister has sat too long here for any good that he has been doing. In the name of God, will he go to Rideau Hall, call an election, and end the chaos?
Order. The Honourable Leader of the Government in the House of Commons.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as you well know, and as every member in this place knows, just because a Conservative member of Parliament wishes something does not mean that it actually happens. Amen. But what happened over the past couple of weeks, Mr. Speaker, is the government secured the confidence of this House. And the government does enjoy the confidence of this House, Mr. Speaker, and that is why we will be presenting the fall economic statement later today, which we look forward to sharing with Canadians. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for La Prairie. We're watching a historic moment here. The Deputy Prime Minister quit, saying that she disagreed with the Prime Minister on the path forward for Canada. The Deputy Prime Minister no longer has confidence in this Prime Minister to govern. Her lack of confidence is added.
So, okay, let me segue over just because I got to cover this one too. So, for this mass shooting that happened in Wisconsin, this is by Libs of TikTok. Oh. Look at that. So, there's a mass shooting going on in Wisconsin. This mass shooter went into a Christian school and killed innocent teens, right? 3 dead, including shooter, 7 in hospital. And the police officer, he says, I don't know if it's shooter a male or a female, so it could be a trans individual doing this shit, man. So just letting you know. Here's playing this tape here, bro. This world is crazy now, man. It's insane. Oh, can we play?
Or female, but the police department did not fire their weapons. Thank you.
They never fired their weapons.
That is correct.
Correct.
Let's follow that one question.
I don't know if it's a male or female, but the police department did not fire their weapons. Thank you.
They never fired their weapons.
That is correct.
Let's follow that one question.
I don't know if it's a male or female, but the police department did not.
Okay, let's play this.
To that of 8 other ministers. The Prime Minister can't claim to have the confidence of the people if he doesn't even have the confidence of his own ministers. Will he do the democratic thing and put his future in the hands of the people and call elections? The Honourable Minister of Innovation. Mr. Speaker, on this side of the House, I know that all of our colleagues want to work for Quebec and the entire country. Mr. Speaker, at a time like this, what Quebecers expect is not to hear fiery slogans, Mr. Speaker. They expect us to work together. This is a moment where we need to work together to prepare Quebec and Quebec's industry to face the American administration. We need to prepare Quebec and the rest of Canada to win in the 21st century economy, and I can tell all Quebecers that that's what we're doing on this side of the House. That's what we wake up and do every day, Mr. Speaker. We get up to serve Canadians. We want to be there for Quebecers and the whole country. We'll continue to do so. The Honourable Member for La Prairie. In 2020, the Prime Minister made Bill Morneau step down because he wasn't spending enough, and he put the current Deputy Prime Minister in his place. She has now quit because she wasn't spending enough. Imagine how much the third Finance Minister is going to have to spend to keep their job. They're going to have to go over to the NDP to find somebody who's ready to spend that much. Seriously, this is a disastrous economic statement. Will the Prime Minister resign? The Honourable Minister of Innovation. Mr. Speaker, Quebecers know that the Bloc likes to pick a fight, Mr. Speaker. But today, Mr. Speaker, the government is going to present a fall economic statement, Mr. Speaker, in which will show that we're there for Canada's industry and for workers across the country. At a time like now, Mr. Speaker, what Quebecers and Canadians expect from everyone, and especially from the Bloc Québécois, is that we be there to defend their interests, that we be there for families, for seniors. That's exactly what we're doing on this side of the House, and I hope the Bloc will stand up and support the government, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Member for La Prairie. The government is getting ready to table an economic update without a finance minister. Nobody, not even the Liberals, wants to wear this economic statement. It's the ultimate proof that we can't go forward with a $60 billion deficit just to offer political gimmicks. A deficit for measures that neither Quebecers nor businesses have asked for. Measures in this have been denounced by economists, including in the finance department. It's not surprising that nobody in the Liberal Party wants to be responsible for it. Will the Prime Minister do the right thing and stop with these measures?
He likes Spike Lee,
The Honourable
Justin
Minister of Innovation.
Trudeau.
Mr. Speaker,
Hold on.
we want to move forward.
How come this is
If the Bloc wants to go backwards, that's up to them. But on this...
Yeah, be like Spike Lee, Justin Trudeau, and do the right thing. Huh? Justin Trudeau? Do the right thing like Spike Lee. Okay, so I don't know what is going on here. I might have to refresh. Yeah, I might have to refresh this here. But yeah, do the right thing, Justin Trudeau.
Side, we're going to go forward, Mr. Speaker. Why? Because families in Quebec, Mr. Speaker, who are watching us, need a government that's there for them, that's there for dental care, for kids, for seniors, for industry, for Quebec, for Canada. Mr. Speaker, on this side of the House, will continue to fight. We will continue to fight every day for all Canadians because the country deserves that we be there to stand up for it, Mr. Speaker. I would invite members to please not take the floor when other members have been recognized by the Speaker. The Honourable Member for Charles-Bourgault-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker.
All right, now we're cooking back. Apologize.
To prepare Quebec and Quebec's industry to face the American administration. We need to prepare Quebec and the rest of Canada to win in the 21st century economy, and I can tell all Quebecers that that's what we're doing on this side of the House. That's what we wake up and do every day, Mr. Speaker. We get up to serve Canadians. We want to be there for Quebecers and the whole country. We'll continue to do so. The Honourable Member for La Prairie. In 2020, the Prime Minister made Bill Morneau step down because he wasn't spending enough, and he put the current Deputy Prime Minister in his place. The $60 billion deficit. We know it. Most Canadians know it. But, you know, now it's time to say enough. Can the Prime Minister please take his responsibility and call an election today? The Honourable Minister of Labour and Seniors. Mr. Speaker, the government later today will be presenting its economic plan. It's a solid plan for Canadians, which will ensure fairness, it will ensure good jobs, and it will continue to make sure that Canadians' economic interests are respected. The Honourable Member for Charlebourg-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, I can't believe that the minister believes the words he's saying. We know that this doesn't make any sense. The finance minister quit this morning because of this. She knows that none of this makes any sense. And the finance minister said that given the threat that we're facing, the way that we do it, that we deal with that will define us for a generation. We know that Canadians are smart. Will the Prime Minister call an election today? The Honourable Minister of Labour and Seniors. It's time, Mr. Speaker, to put that partisanship aside and to rally as Canadians together, because Canada will have to face a protectionist threat from the other side of the border. And we are preparing for that, Mr. Speaker. We will have a solid plan, and I hope that we will be able to count on that member and his party when Canada will face that threat. The Honourable Member for Louis Saint Laurent. Mr. Speaker, what's happening is serious and it's unprecedented. The Deputy Prime Minister, the Minister of Finance, quit just a few hours before the fall economic statement. It's just a bomb that's gone off, because even in the United States and around the world, people are talking about this, and in a bad way for Canada. That's the reality that we're looking at today, Mr. Speaker. The former finance minister said no more than $40 billion of deficit. The Prime Minister pushed her aside to listen to Mark Carney. Will the Minister of Industry please tell us what Mark Carney's deficit will be when it's presented in 2 hours? The Honourable Minister of Innovation. Mr. Speaker, I have a huge amount of respect for the member for Louis Saint Laurent. And as my colleague has already said, we will be presenting the fall economic statement later today, Mr. Speaker. A fall economic statement that'll be there for families. It's an economic statement that'll be there for workers, an economic statement that'll be there for industry, but also, Mr. Speaker, an economic statement that'll be important. And we're expecting that the Conservatives will be ready to support it so that we can face the threat from the United States, Mr. Speaker. Canadians expect better than slogans, Mr. Speaker. Canadians expect actions. Will the Conservatives have the courage to defend Canada and to vote with the government to prepare Canada for the future, Mr. Speaker?
The Honourable Member for London Fanshawe.
Mr. Speaker, I've heard that Liberals are a shiver looking for a spine to crawl up, and we're seeing this play out in real time as they've let postal workers and, in fact, all workers down. At this time, when Canada Post CEOs got bonus after bonus while denying fair wages to its workers, this government continues to betray people and cave to corporate interests. As the former Deputy Prime Minister said, Canadians know when their government is not working for them, but working for themselves. New Democrats know where we stand. We stand up for workers every single day. When will this government do the same?
The Honourable Minister of Labour and for Seniors.
Mr. Speaker, Canada went through a 4-week postal strike where letter carriers, who we do thank for their service to Canadians and who I know we all have deep affinity for, were out for a very long time. Not only the government, but the Canada Industrial Relations Board has judged there to be a fundamental impasse in the negotiations. We have found an imaginative way forward, a way to get a collective agreement for Canada Post and its hardworking letter carriers, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Nanaimo Ladysmith.
Mr. Speaker, they are not listening. The former Deputy Prime Minister said it best today. Canadians know when the government is working for them or for themselves. Well, the Liberals have made it clear where their focus lies. The Minister of Labour's out-of-touch response last week to postal workers is a slap in the face. They deserve safety at work and livable wages. People are tired of the Liberals and Conservatives siding with rich CEOs at their expense. Now Canadians want to know, will the Minister of Labour be the next to resign?
Hear, hear. The Honourable Minister of Labour and for Seniors.
Mr. Speaker, as that member well knows, postal workers and Canada Post were struggling to find a path forward at the negotiating table. It had gone on for 4 weeks. Canadians were quite rightly, whether they were in Indigenous or remote communities, whether they were small business persons, whether they were people expecting medicines, Mr. Speaker, we were being pressed to act. We found an imaginative way forward with an industrial inquiry commission. We will ensure that Canada Post operates for the holidays, Mr. Speaker, and we're glad that we did.
Good, good.
The honourable member for Winnipeg South Centre.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to talk about something that's on everybody's mind, and that is the Canadian Dental Care Plan. Mr. Speaker, 1 out of 4 Canadians skipped a visit to the dentist because of the cost. But thanks to the Canadian Dental Care Plan, more than 1 million Canadians now receive that care, and every day that number continues to grow. Mr. Speaker, applications for the Canadian Dental Care Plan opened for adults with a valid disability tax credit earlier this year. Can the Minister of Diversity and Inclusion please tell us how persons with disabilities are being helped by this important plan? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Minister for Diversity and Inclusion.
Mr. Speaker, the Canadian Dental Care Plan is already saving Canadians an average more than $730 per year. This will help almost 200,000 persons living with disabilities access dental care. Mr. Speaker, we know this is making a huge difference in the lives of people on the ground. We also know, Mr. Speaker, dental care is health care, and we will continue to make sure Canadians are getting the support that they need. Thank you.
The honourable member for Calgary Forest Lawn.
This week, Prime Minister has lost control. Carbon tax Carney wrote the fiscal update, filled it with poison pills, so he could blame the finance minister while pushing her off the fiscal cliff, so he can take her job and eventually the Prime Minister's job. The finance minister figured out the plan, so she resigned in protest. She said she no longer has confidence in this weak Prime Minister and carbon tax Carney's plan. If the Prime Minister's own caucus and cabinet don't have confidence in him, even though the leader of the NDP does, why should Canadians?
The Honourable Minister for Housing, Infrastructure and Communities.
Mr. Speaker, in a moment where Canadians are looking for leadership, the Conservative asking the question can only come up with names to lobby towards his political opponents.
Colleagues, it is very important for us to just hear the question and hear the answer. The Honourable Minister, from the start.
From the top. Mr. Speaker, the very best that the Conservatives can offer to this conversation is name-calling, mudslinging, not solutions to the problems that Canadians are facing. When I talk to people at home, they want their governments to be focusing on creating good jobs to make sure people can afford to put food on the table. They want to make sure that governments are advancing policies to invest in health care and housing. They want to make sure we're doing more to protect the environment. Every time we put policies on the table to accomplish these ends, the Conservatives throw their hands up in the air, vote against, and just sling mud towards their opponents. That is not what people in my community want. It is not what Canadians deserve. We're going to advance solutions that introduce real and meaningful changes that will benefit people who live in this country.
I'm just going to ask the Honourable Member from Dufferin-Caledon, please, to hold off on making comments while the other people have the floor. The Honourable Member from Calgary Forest Lawn.
He's right. After 9 years of that incompetent minister and the Prime Minister, Canadians are looking for leadership. Carbon tax Carney's Canadian comeback fueled a fiscal feud for the former finance minister. Carney wrote the fiscal update, pushed insane inflationary spending, and brought in the 2-month tax trick while trying to blame the finance minister for taking Canada's finances off a cliff. Will he stop passing the blame on to women in his caucus and call a carbon tax election now so common sense Conservatives can give the power back to Canadians?
The Honourable Minister for Housing, Infrastructure and Communities.
Mr. Speaker, I was wrong before when I said all they had was name calling. Apparently they have alliteration as well. But Mr. Speaker, that is not going to put food on the table for people who need it in my community or his. It is not going to put a roof over the head of people who are vulnerable in this country. Mr. Speaker, if he wants to make this argument about whether women will be supported, I wonder if he has ever approached the leader of the Conservative Party about using hashtags to specifically attract the attention of men who hate women to support him online. I wonder if he's asked questions about why he's canceled the investigation as to who was behind it, or perhaps it's because he knows it was the Conservative leader himself.
The honourable member for